All right, we are following breaking news. CBS has learned the Department of Justice has indicted former FBI Director James Comey. Prosecutors have indicted Comey on 2 counts. Details about those charges are forthcoming. For now, though, let's bring in CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen. He joins us on the phone here. And we're also looking at, Jake, a post here from Attorney General Pam Bondi that just came across saying, let me read this out loud to you. No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. Jake, thank you again for joining us here on the phone. Can you talk to us more about what you're learning at this hour?
Sure. So CBS News can report that Comey was charged with 1 count of making false statements and 1 count of obstruction of justice, according to U.S. officials who are familiar with the indictment, which was just officially approved by a grand jury today. Obviously, this is a major escalation in President Trump's efforts to target political opponents. And President Trump made no secret of his willingness to remove a prosecutor in Virginia and appoint a former personal defense attorney of his to take over that job to bring these charges kind of across the finish line. If the charges had not been brought before next Tuesday, the statute of limitations, 5 years plus, would have elapsed, meaning that the department just couldn't have brought these charges. Obviously, you saw Attorney General Pam Bondi confirming these and mentioning misleading the American people. We don't necessarily know, obviously, what those charges of obstruction are related to, but presumably these false statements are around Comey's congressional testimony from 2020, in which he made false statements, at least the Trump Department of Justice is alleging, knowingly to senators who were questioning him about the FBI's handling of the investigation into the Trump campaign and also the Russian interference in the 2016 election.
So I know that, Jake, this is something that we had potentially been looking out for, especially the past few days. Is there a sense of what happens from here?
Yeah, so what we'll see is, and if the indictment is not yet unsealed, so we'll obviously learn a lot more when that does happen. From there, it's obviously Comey would have to likely appear before a judge in the next coming days, either tomorrow or potentially Monday. Obviously, the Trump administration, again, has really made no secret of their willingness to do this. It was just finding a way to make this work. Obviously, Comey can now go into full defense mode. We have not heard him or his attorneys comment on any of this. And it comes at a crucial time where Attorney General Pam Bondi has obviously been pressured from the right of the party to deliver more of President Trump's agenda, deliver more of the prosecutions that President Trump has said are coming. Well, we knew that he was under investigation, but now we know they're officially pursuing charges against the former FBI director.
And Jake, for people who are not as familiar, can you give us just a kind of idea of the relationship between Comey and Trump and how that kind of evolved?
Yeah, and former FBI Director James Comey served as the FBI director from 2013 until he was fired by President Trump in 2017, towards the beginning of President Trump's first White House term. That set into motion Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation into the allegations that Russia interfered in the election, and the Trump campaign coordinated with the Kremlin about the election. Mr. Trump obviously has said that that's a hoax. And we know that Comey, since leaving that post, has been a very vocal critic of Mr. Trump, calling him unfit in many interviews. And we saw earlier this year, he put himself kind of back in the spotlight when he posted on Instagram that 8647 quote, which the Trump administration saw as a threat to obviously hurt President Trump or cause violence against him. And given the last couple of months, that of political violence we see in the country, that's obviously kind of been exacerbated, right?
All right, Jake Rosen, thank you very much. We appreciate your insight on this breaking news. Again, that breaking news that former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on 2 counts, one of making false statements, another of obstruction of justice. Thank you for watching us tonight. CBS Evening News Plus begins after the break. I'm Nancy Chen. You're watching CBS News 24/7.